Hello, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, my name is Steffi Marie. So today we're going to be doing a chatty get ready with me. So if you want to know the story on how I found out I was pregnant, why I chose a C-section, and my labor and delivery story, then please keep on watching. I need coffee before we get started. Before we get started, I do want to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to my channel. I upload new beauty videos every Sunday and Wednesday, and don't forget to like this video. My goal is to be monetized within the next 6 months, so your thumbs up will help me a lot. And we'll go ahead and jump into it. So my face, it's pretty red because I shaved my face before recording this. And I recorded that shave video, like how I shaved my face video, about 2-3 weeks ago. So I was looking a little stubbly. So my baby, he was born on January 30th, 2019. So as I'm recording this, it is January 31st. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started by explaining how I found out I was pregnant. Maybe a little TMI for you, some of you, so you might want to skip the next minute if it's too TMI for you. But basically what happened was we were moving, and when we were moving, I started what I thought was my period. Like, it was bleeding, but it was like a very short period, so I didn't really think anything of it because I do have quite irregular periods. And I just didn't think anything about it. I'm like, okay, well, I started my period, so I guess I'm fine. And probably about like 5 weeks went on, and I just started feeling sick. And I thought I was actually getting sick. I'm like, man, I'm not getting vertigo, because it started by the very first symptom I got was dizziness, actually. I just started getting dizzy. And I'm like, okay, am I getting vertigo? I don't know, because I remember there was an earthquake and I was like very spinny and woozy, and I just felt like that feeling and sensation never really quite went away. And I was like, man, I got vertigo really bad. I just don't feel good. Like, I'm feeling sick and nauseated. And then a couple weeks went by, and just the nausea didn't really quite go away. And it wasn't like throwing up or anything. I just nauseous and dizzy. And I got to the point, I'm like, well, maybe I should go to the doctor, because around that point in time, there was somebody, I don't want to disclose who it is because I don't want to put that out there, but there was, you know, a family member of mine who had a false positive pregnancy test. So I was like, well, why don't I just go to the actual doctor to find out? And so I went to the doctor, and I was like, I'm nauseous, and I know I had a period, but it only lasted probably about like 2 days. And they're like, okay, so, you know, they had me take the actual pregnancy test, and then the doctor comes in. The first thing she says, like, well, you're pregnant, which I didn't even expect. I'm like, wait, like, I kind of did, but then again, I don't know, because I did have a period. I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. And so she was like, but based on everything, she did a vaginal sonogram, and I was measuring to 9 weeks. And I was like shook. I was so shook. And I remember that at that appointment, Mark dropped me off to the doctor because he had to be somewhere at the same time as my doctor appointment. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna drop you off to the doctor, and then I'm gonna come pick you up once your doctor's appointment is over. I'm like, all right, cool. Yo. I was so distraught and like thrown off I was so thrown off and distraught where I didn't even tell Mark yet. I was just like, told him, I was like, hey, you don't need to pick me up. I'm gonna walk home. Like, like, I'm okay. And literally, I probably walked like 4 miles home because I was like crying. I was literally crying, and I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know like his response, because we've been together for a very, very long time, but we just never really had that conversation, like if we are ready for kids yet, or like what are we gonna do. So I just didn't know what to do. So before I told him, I just wanted to get my thoughts together. He came home and he's like, so how was the doctor's appointment? And like the first thing I said was like crying. I'm like, I'm pregnant. And all it was just like crying. It wasn't like an ugly crying, but there was like just like telling him, and there was like those silent little tears coming down my eyes. And he was like, okay, so I mean, it's not really up to discussion. Obviously we're having him. Well, he didn't say him, he said obviously we're having the baby. And then I was just like, okay. And then I mean, it just made me feel better because like I mentioned, it was just like, it wasn't a really quite a deep conversation that we ever really had before on what to do. Like we always said like we were gonna have kids one day, but we never like, you know, had that conversation like we're ready or anything like that. So, and we just moved. So he's just like, all right, well, I mean, it's not really up for a question. We're having the baby. And whew, my first trimester was an absolute struggle. Like I was so freaking nauseous, so nauseous. I could not cook. Like just the thought or smell of meat just made me throw up. Like I could not cook. And I remember one time I was like trying to cook them, I think it was like chicken or something, and like I was literally like throwing up just trying to cook chicken. It was so gross to me, and I was like, I can't do it, I cannot. It's ugh. And I remember every single time we went to the grocery store, in like, you know, the meat section near it, just the smell of that meat, and I was like, I need to get out of here, I'm gonna get sick. And ugh, all I could think about was how grossed out I used to be by the smell of meat. It was so gross, and I was so fatigued. And that's one thing I kind of felt like I was pregnant, because I was so freaking tired, like tired than normal. Like my commute from work to home was typically about 45 minutes to an hour. And I literally, in LA traffic, like it was always bad. And I used to get so tired where I was literally struggling driving home. It was really bad. Like there were some days I'm like, I'm surprised I even made it home because I was so tired. I just could not shake that feeling of being tired at all. Only thing I could eat was whatever I was in the mood to eat. So like, you know, I wanted Taco Bell, so that was like the only thing I was willing to eat was Taco Bell. It wasn't really like crazy cravings, it was just like, I mean, some people call it pregnancy cravings, but for me it was just like, I'm so sick, everything sounds absolutely disgusting to me, and the only thing I feel like I could tolerate to eat was like whatever it is I wanted at that point in time, which was typically Taco Bell, to be honest, because I love Taco Bell. And it's funny though, because when I was going through that whole nausea phase, if I ate something that grossed me out, I would still literally throw up. And if I ate something while nauseous, but I wanted that specific food, I wouldn't throw up, which I find funny. So it wasn't really, I don't know, I guess it was pregnancy cravings, but at the same time, like, I felt like it was just that one thing I felt like didn't gross me out to the point I was gonna throw up, so I just ate it. This pregnancy, I didn't gain a lot of weight. I probably only gained like in total 20 pounds. So that worked out. I only gained about 20 pounds around pregnancy, but I didn't gain that much weight because I did actually end up having gestational diabetes. I was very, very strict in my diet, and Mark was like making sure that I didn't eat what I was supposed to, and it wasn't even carbs that would like skyrocket, like bread carbs that would skyrocket my glucose level, it was dairy. I could not have any dairy. If I had too much milk, or cheese or anything like that, my glucose level would like skyrocket, and I had to eat small portions. I ate very healthy, and even if I try to have something bad, I always made sure that I had small portions. So all of my food I put on like a small plate to make sure I never overate. That part wasn't bad, just the whole, I'm gonna add a little bit of concealer just to brighten this area up again. Yeah, I felt like the gestational diabetes was kind of a curse and a blessing, because I was so strict on my diet. I didn't gain much weight, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of a stressful thing to deal with, like just hoping the baby's okay, the baby doesn't gain too much weight or be affected by the gestational diabetes. Yeah, so for like selfish reasons, my weight gain felt like it was good, but at the same time, you know, I was definitely still worried about the baby. Since I was pregnant, it's funny how like intuitive women are when it comes to their pregnancy. The first, I had two intuitions, and the other one I'll get into when it comes to my delivery, but since I was pregnant, I just knew it was a boy. I knew it was a boy. Didn't even entertain the fact that it was a girl. Didn't even think or try to come up with like a girl name or anything. It was just like, nope, it's a boy. And I remember when I was laid off my job, people were trying to give me girl stuff to take home, and I remember I'm like, no, it's not a girl. I think it's a boy. And at that point in time, I was only about 14 weeks along, so it was like way too soon to tell. But I just knew, like, it is a boy. Didn't even think it was a girl at all. Like, not even a thought of it being a girl at all. So it's just so funny how like intuitive you can be when you are pregnant. As soon as we had the ultrasound, of course, it was a boy. Mark was very happy, because for him, he was like, if he has kids, he really just wants a boy, and he'd be happy. I mean, I'd be happy either way, because, you know, I love having a girl, but at the same time, having a boy, I feel like it's a little bit nerve-wracking, because I was never raised around boys at all. Like, it was just me and my sisters. You know, we occasionally went around like distant family members that we never really seen that often, so I was just never around boys. So raising a boy is just very scary to me. At the same time, it's just, main goal is to raise a good person. So during my pregnancy, I had a lot of like pelvic pain. This little boy was so low where it was so hard walking around, and I walked around all the time, because when you have gestational diabetes, you definitely want to be active as well. So I think that's definitely one of the factors that helped me not gain a lot of weight, is I walked all the time. The baby was always hitting my bladder, so I always felt like, especially towards my last trimester, it was like, always felt like, oh my god, I'm gonna pee myself. It was like one of those feelings where it was like literally just constantly hitting my bladder. And it was always so funny where he would just hit it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna use the bathroom, because I felt like every time he hit my bladder, I felt like he was one kick away from me peeing on myself. So I'm like, let me just empty my bladder, because I don't want to pee myself. And I remember when I was like telling Mark about how like before, like I had with Layla, I had peed myself once before when I sneezed. I think that same, like the following day, it happened to me where I had sneezed and I had peed myself, but that was like the only one time during that pregnancy I actually did. But because I was so paranoid after that, I always made sure I went pee. Like, even if I feel like I didn't. I still went and peed because I was so paranoid. I'm like, man, my worst fear is being somewhere public and peeing myself. Anytime we were out, I always made sure like, no, I'm gonna use the bathroom. That was like the first thing I did, was just go use the bathroom anytime we were anywhere near a bathroom. So if we went walking and I knew we were gonna be near somewhere with the bathroom, I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna stop and go to the bathroom. When I started meeting with my OB, who also delivered Ryder, she sat down with me and she was like, okay, you know, you have to think of a birthing plan. I understand that you had a C-section before, but for this pregnancy, you know, if you do decide to have a C-section, you'll always have to have one, or you can go for a natural birth. And I think that was the one appointment Mark wasn't there with me, and I just immediately decided like, I want to have a C-section. I told Mark, I was like, I want to have a C-section. He was like, okay, well, you know, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do that. And he was just very supportive of my decision. He didn't really like force me to like, no, you need to have a natural birth or anything. He just was like, okay, well, you know, that's what you feel comfortable with doing, then just go ahead and do that. I don't know, just something told me like, just do the C-section. And so I did. When we scheduled the C-section, it was for 31 weeks. And because I had gestational diabetes, they just kind of kept a very close eye on how he was growing, and you know, however I was doing, they just kept a very good eye on him. So up until 31 weeks, he was fine. He wasn't getting too big. He was perfect size because I was eating very healthy. It came to, I want to say starting around like 38 weeks, I was having constant Braxton Hicks, like constant. And it was such a pain in the ass because I'll be uncomfortable having like contractions, and Mark will look at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just having contractions. Like, do we need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, it's just Braxton Hicks, but it's just really uncomfortable. And so every single time I'd be like sitting there uncomfortable, Mark would kind of freak out. Like, are you okay? Do we need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I'm fine. It's just Braxton Hicks contractions. So it was so often where like, I kind of felt bad even telling him I had contractions, because he would freak out every single time I mentioned I had contractions. You know, we lasted 41 weeks and it wasn't bad pregnancy at all. The only complaint I had was really just like the pelvic pain hurt so bad. Like, I constantly had pelvic pain. During this pregnancy, I didn't really have like, even when it got to the end, I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm over it, I'm in so much pain. It was just like, I'm fine, but it really freaking hurts to walk around. Oh, and like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm always just congested no matter what. And during my pregnancy, I was so congested. Like, breathing out of my nose was just not a thing anymore. Because I was always congested, that was like another complaint I had, was just like, man, I want to be able to breathe out of my nose again and be able to walk around without being in pain because of all the pelvic pain. But I didn't really have like anything bad going on. So down to delivery day, which was the scheduled C-section at my 41 weeks scheduled C-section, which was January 30th. And it was at, gosh, what time was it at? Noon. We had to be there by noon. And so the day before, I'm just, you know, getting my bag ready, which is crazy because I didn't even have my intuition just knew that I knew I was not gonna have him until I was 41 weeks as well. So actually there's 3 intuitions. So the first one was his gender. The second one was I just knew I wasn't gonna have him until I was 41 weeks. And so I didn't even pack a bag at all my whole pregnancy. I had like an empty bag just sitting at the end of my bed, because normally it's like zipped in a bag, in a suitcase, in the back of my closet. So in case it did happen or anything like that, I don't have to dig for it. So I did have like the actual bag out, but my stuff I did not even have packed up. I think the only thing I had packed up was like little stuff like a toothbrush. And even when I was doing my checkups, like I wasn't dilated or anything, just having my contractions. So I was just like, man, I'm not gonna have him until I'm 41 weeks during my scheduled C-section. Night before, I did not sleep. That part I remember. We only slept like 2 hours. We could not. I think I was just so, I mean, it's the day before your baby's born. So just, you know, nervous, excited at the same time. So we couldn't sleep. We're up all night. And so we get to the hospital, of course, tired. And we show up at noon, and it was such an awesome time. My same OB delivered him, so I was just very like well acquainted with her. She was super, super sweet, and she was one of those doctors who like answered everything for you before you even asked. Everybody came in, introduced themselves, so everybody was just so nice. And I actually like that they were all kind of like young and fun. So when I had him, we were all just joking around. And when I got to the actual room where they, you know, prepare you. So here's the funny part. So the actual, I think it's the anesthesiologist, she was doing the injection in my back, and my OB was in front of me, like talking to me and kind of like holding my hands, like, okay, just talk me through everything. And I was closing my eyes, and I was like so nervous. I was just sitting there kind of like clenched up, just nervous. And the anesthesiologist accidentally did something. I don't know what she did, but my reflexes reacted. Whatever she hit, it hit like a nerve. So my reflexes, I kicked the shit out of my OB. So I'm just like, oh shit, I'm so sorry. And they're like, hold on, don't move, don't move. And then I'm just sitting there like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to kick you. And she's laughing, she's like, and then the anesthesiologist, she's like, no, it wasn't you, that was me, that I did that, I'm so sorry. And we're just sitting there laughing. Normally in that situation, I'm pretty sure somebody would have been mad, but because like the fact that I kicked the shit out of my OB, and she's like really tiny, she's like a very petite lady, so she's like very short and skinny. So the fact that I was like, here I am, this big old woman, like 41 weeks pregnant, kicking the shit out of this tiny little doctor. Yeah, I felt so bad, but she was very sweet and everybody's really nice, so we're all laughing. And I remember looking over, and Mark was like, when I looked over to my left, and you could kind of see the doors opening and closing, and I could see Mark through the doors, like cleaning up and putting on his scrubs. And before he came in, oh my God, my reaction to the, is that an epidural? I think it's epidural, whatever they shoot me with. My reaction was like throwing up. Like I was just there just throwing up. And like, I guess they had gave me like, medicine to drink orally to help numb for the anesthesiologist, and I threw that up, and I threw up everything, like until there was just nothing left. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm good. And then as soon as I said it was okay, they brought Mark in. So luckily he didn't have to witness me just sitting there throwing up for like 5 minutes straight. Or else he probably would have been grossed out and tried to leave. As soon as he came in, like the whole energy just changed. Like it went from like me being a nervous wreck to everybody just like laughing and having a good time. And because we're both just so excited, and all of like the nurses and my doctor, they were all so nice the whole time while delivering Ryder. We're just all laughing and having a good time. And I can't even remember what we were talking about. It probably was just a bunch of nothing really. But when Ryder was born, he was a big boy. When Ryder was born, he was actually stuck up my ribs. He was so big. My ribs are always sore. And I remember they were just like, the doctor was like, hold on. I didn't expect him to be this big. She was trying to pull him out and I just felt tugging. And I can actually feel them tugging like up in my rib cage area. And she was like, I didn't expect him to be this big. And then so she's like saying she had to widen the incision. And so she's like, yeah, he is a big boy. And he was just really tall. But when he was born, Mark looked at him. He was just like, yep, I know his name. His name is Ryder. And before that, he did not name him. He's like, I really just want to wait till I see him to kind of give him an official name. And which I definitely was here for. I'm like, well, okay, like, because the thing about Mark naming his child was like the most important thing to him. And I can't think of a boy name, so I was just like, okay, you know, that's gonna be your thing. You name him, so whatever he names him, like that's gonna be it. When he was born, the doctor said, you know, this was actually the most funnest time I had delivering a baby. You guys are so much fun. Okay, I have to make it quick because Ryder's waking up. Here comes the part about my intuition, where I always felt like this whole pregnancy, it was just, you know, my best choice was always just to follow my intuition. I chose to have a C-section my whole pregnancy. So ever since I met with my OB right after my first trimester, she gave me the option and I immediately chose a C-section. And she just kept saying, like, my whole entire pregnancy, like, okay, so your plan, are you sure you want to do a C-section? And, you know, there was even like other people around me who had like, you know, were kind of discouraged about it. Like, I think you should do natural birth. I didn't even entertain it because of the fact that it just like, I don't know, something just kept telling me to have a C-section. And once we got to the C-section, and when I was in the hospital recovering from my C-section, my OB actually said, she was like, so you did actually choose the right thing, because part of my uterus was really thin. I guess the bottom of my uterus was really thin, where if I was to have had a natural birth, I could have bled out. And so she was like, you definitely did make the right decision. And when she told me that, I'm like, yo, my intuition was definitely on point this entire pregnancy, because I don't know why, I just like kept telling myself like I should have a C-section. And even like before that, during my pregnancy, I was even doubting myself, like maybe I should have a natural birth, especially because my doctor kept asking me like, are you sure you want to have a C-section? You still want to go with that plan? I'm like, yeah, I still want to have one. And chose the date. And even like the day before, when I did my last checkup, she even asked me again, like, are you sure? And I kept saying, yes, I'm sure. I was right to follow my intuition. Yeah, we had an awesome delivery. It was fun. My eyeliner does not match. I know my eyeliner doesn't match, but the baby's waking up, so I don't have a whole lot of time. Let me hurry up and finish. No lip liner today. I gotta hurry up because Ryder's waking up. I don't want him to start crying. I can hear him in his crib making noise, so I don't want him to start crying. But anyways, I do think I want to do like a separate video about like postpartum, you know, things I discovered and how everything went after having the baby. So let me know if you want to see that video next. Okay, so we are all done, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye. A freaking hair. I feel like a hair on my face is bothering me, but I can't see it anywhere. I found it. Little shit. Freaking princess fur on my eye. Right, I woke up. Oh crap. See, I freaking blinked before I let this dry because I'm like rushing. See if I can fix it. Can I fix it? My freaking neighbor kids are like so damn nosy. I can see them like walking by, looking through the window. All right, that's as good as it's gonna get right now. Wanna say hi, Papa? Ooh, bless you. We gotta change you. You got milk on you.